Hi everyone, welcome back to Serger Tip Clips. Well, I was opening my emails this morning and going through an online clothing catalog, and I think it was a sign. What did I see as an edge finish on their knitwear, whether they were tank tops, tunics, t-shirts, shorts, or anything else? They used a lettuce edge. And I thought that would be a fun technique today to revisit on our sergers because it's everywhere and it has been for a long time. It's a very popular edge finish for knitwear. Also, you can use this technique if you've got a lightweight fabric that is woven and cut on the bias. Sometimes you'll see this on dressy dresses and silk chiffons where you'll see that pretty fluttery edge, and it's the lettuce edge. When we're creating that lettuce edge on knit fabrics, we're doing exactly what we usually try to avoid when we're serging a knit fabric, and that's stretching the edge. To create that fluttery, ruffly edge, we do need to stretch it out. Now, we don't want to stretch the body of a garment, just the edge only. And sometimes when people are learning how to do the lettuce edge, they have a tendency to really pull and stretch on the fabric as they're stitching. And sometimes that rolled edge, which is very narrow, tends to bounce off the edge and they have to start all over again. I've got a great method to avoid that. Before we start though, let me give you my settings. I am on a rolled hem stitch on my Bernina L890, that's stitch number 8. I've made a few adjustments though. I have my lower looper tension up to 7.0. I have my stitch length on very short. I have it on 1.0, and I've lowered the differential feed to 0.7, so it's below 1. And what does that mean? The front feed dogs have been slowed down, and that's going to gently stretch the edge of the knit fabric as we stitch. But it won't create what I think of as a lettuce edge. It'll just be a little bit wavy, and I'll show that to you on the table before I create the lettuce edge itself. So let's get started with that. Also, I am going to use a piece of stabilizer, and you can see it's one that I can see through so I can keep track of where the edge of the fabric is. Also, I've got a woolly polyester in my upper looper and serger cone thread in my right needle as well as my lower looper. I'm putting my stabilizer in first, and I'm going to lower the needle to hold it in place. It's slippery, and if I don't do that, the toe of the foot tends to push it away as I stitch. I'm going to slide my fabric right side up, and it's kind of hard to see which side is right side on this knit fabric, but it's a very lightweight one with lots of stretch in the crosswise direction. So I'm going to get that right up to the needle. Put my presser foot down. We'll just skim off a little bit of the edge of the fabric as we stitch. And I'm holding onto my thread tails until the needle starts stitching in the fabric. Okay, and because the stitch length is so short at 1.0, it basically perforates the stabilizer, and so I don't even have to pull it off manually. But let's go over to the table and take a look at this stitch up close, and I'll show you my pinch and pull method for getting it to be nice and ruffly. Okay, we've got the edge all stitched. Let me just show you right at the end of this, before I get onto the fabric. You can see that there's just a little bit of that stabilizer under the stitching. Now, when I pull this, you may see a little bit of popping, and that's the stabilizer that's caught underneath here. But it is a wash away, so that if this were a real garment that was going to be washed, that would disappear underneath the stitching. after the first laundering. But we're not going to worry about that now. And you can see how beautiful that edge is. And with the woolly polyester, it gives excellent coverage, which is a really nice feature of woolly polyester. So this is my pinch and pull method. And rather than pulling it as it's stitched, you can see I didn't have any problem with the stitch staying put on the edge of the fabric itself. And that's because I didn't pull on it as it was being stitched. But now is the time. So I like to take about 1.5 inches at a time and really give that edge a good pull. And the other thing this does is, again, I mentioned we don't want to pull the body of the garment and stretch that out of shape. We just want that edge to be stretched and ruffly. And look at already, you can see. And you don't have to be shy about this because as a knit fabric, nothing's going to happen to it as far as raveling or fraying or anything else. And you can be pretty aggressive and assertive with pulling on it. And if your lettuce edge isn't quite as ruffly as you want the first time, if you're a little bit timid, maybe doing that the first time, go back just like this and give it another pull. Just like that. Look how pretty that is. It's just such a nice edge. Let me turn it around so we'll pretend that it's a hem on something. There you have that lettuce edge. And woolly polyester is not the only thread that you can use, although it does give nice coverage. It's also very soft and non-abrasive against the skin. But you can use serger cone thread. You can use some of your decorative threads. I wouldn't go too heavy on those, but there are a lot of different threads that you can use and get a beautiful lettuce edge. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you try a lettuce edge on your next project if it's suitable for it. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them below. I'll get back to you quickly with an answer. Happy sewing and serging.